Leaders agree that culture makes all the difference in a business being able to achieve its results and engage and retain employees. But there's a lot of myths that people don't understand about culture. I see 5 regularly that organizations just haven't recognized, and when they do, could make a big pivot in how they shape their culture. The first is this idea that there's only one culture in an organization. If you picture a university like Harvard, you might picture bricks and ivy and whatever Ivy League images it brings to mind. And there's certainly a feeling that you can imagine, a cultural experience of going to Harvard University. If you go within the different colleges within Harvard, though, the experience in the College of Engineering is really likely different than the experience in the College of Literature. They both have that same shared Harvard experience, but the day-to-day that an engineering student is going to live is going to be different than the day-to-day that a literature student is going to experience. And the same thing happens in organizations. While there's a shared culture at the organizational level, the day-to-day experiences people have are varying team to team. There's not one culture in an organization, there's many. And the places where it has to be influenced is at that team level. Because that's where, as the employee, I'm going to have the culture that allows me to do my best work or shuts that down. There are so many cultures within an organization, and trying to shape one isn't going to help you get there. The second myth is this idea that you can fix culture. Fixing it assumes there's an end state, and culture is never done. It's just always going to evolve. And the goal is to create a culture that's agile enough to evolve to what your business strategy needs, to be able to pivot to changes in the economy and the environment and your industry. Fixing makes it sound like you're going to reach a place where you're then done and you don't ever have to do anything, and that's not realistic to how the world is. What you want to do with culture is ultimately shape it. View it as a living thing that you actively spend time on. It should be an item in a regular staff meeting, just like you're looking at revenue or operating costs, because it's an actual cost. It just comes out in different ways. You're never going to be done shaping culture, and if you don't pay attention to it, you will indeed have a lot you have to shape, but you're not going to fix it. The third myth is this idea that culture is owned and shaped by the CEO and senior leadership. We can't do that until they shape the culture. The they, it's not up to me. And you absolutely want your leadership team supporting your culture, role modeling your culture, reinforcing your culture, but it really isn't going to be what the CEO says that impacts what that employee experiences. See, the employee's experience of culture is going to come down to the worst behavior that that team is willing to allow. If a team leader or a member of the team allows behavior that is just crushing to the way work gets done, that's the culture on the team. If the team is really supportive and creates a really healthy environment and is super encouraging, that's the culture on a team. That might get influenced and motivated by the CEO, but each team and each person on the team bears responsibility and ability to shape the culture. What they need are tools to understand how they impact that, and they need to understand that they actually have a culture on their team that they can shape. The fourth myth is this idea that our culture is our values, the sign in our lobby, the trust, integrity, transparency. I've seen pretty much the same values in every company, even companies that have failed. Unfortunately, our culture isn't our values. Our culture is the way we are experiencing those day to day. And while those words may hang in our lobby, until those are carried out in the different interactions, it doesn't work. The problem is most values are too high level. Each team has to be able to look at them and specifically understand what that looks like on this team. Transparency on a team might be, we don't talk behind each other's back. If someone starts to have a conversation with someone else, we say, no, we're going to save that for the team meeting. And the team specifically defines that as a norm. That's part of how you shape culture. You do the work to say, what are the norms? What are those behaviors that we are going to encourage and discourage on this team? It's not what's going to hang in the lobby. It's not the eagle flying through the trees. It's what we say we are going to do and hold up to honor a working environment with each other. The fifth one, culture is not what your engagement survey says once a year. And if all you're doing to listen to culture in your organization is an engagement survey one time a year, that is not your culture. The healthiest organizations have many different ways, more than 3 different ways that they are regularly listening in their organization. A survey might be one of it. It's typically ongoing. It's typically real time. It is also through having leaders listen and having that be agenda items on leadership teams to discuss what are you hearing. Because when you ask someone to listen, you're going to hear things you can't unhear and see things you can't unsee and feel a different sense of responsibility. If you're just relying on an engagement survey that's once a year, it's probably way too many questions that aren't specific enough, that you get results for 6 months later, that are too watered down and generalized, and most employees have no confidence that you're going to do anything about. A real understanding of culture is making sure you're defining different ways to listen regularly throughout the organization and hold people accountable for doing so. Because when you have the real-time data, you can offer real-time responses to shape culture and create the best environment possible.